Hey, all you minties, Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for my retro view of the Batman Rebirth Deluxe Editions, books 1 through 5. So, let's get started. And welcome back, everybody. So, I wanted to do a retro view while I wait on my Batman No Man's Land omnibus, my Books of Magic omnibus. Those overviews are still coming. It's just the postal service in my town has been severely slow because they're short-staffed. So it's nobody's fault, really. But as soon as I get them, I'll be happy to do an overview. So this is one of my most requested retro views to do, is the deluxe editions of Tom King's Batman. And the very first thing I want to say is that deluxe editions, these are the same height and dimensions, well, with the exception of the thickness, of course, as omnibus editions. So they are oversized. So we're going to be taking a look at each one of these, and not really talking about spoilers or anything, although I do want to talk about that issue number 50. But I'm going to be showcasing the artwork, talking about the premise of each of these, and then, of course, the anticipation for Volume 6. And, of course, how they're going to end up collecting the Bat and Cat series, and how many omnibus it would take to do Tom King's Batman complete without leaving anything out. So let's go ahead and get started with Rebirth Deluxe Edition Book 1. Alright, so let's kick off this video with Volume 1 of Batman Rebirth Deluxe Edition. And one thing I do want to stress is that all of these come with a dust jacket, and they all have a different build. Now here's your flaps right here, giving you a little bio on some of the people that helped make this book, and of course a little bit of the premise. So the books all retail for $34.99. I'll double check that though. Sometimes I'm a little bit off. This one here has 400 pages and collects Batman Rebirth number 1 and Batman 1 through 15. So, Batman Rebirth. Whenever I mention Rebirth, I do get some questions as to, is this like Green Lantern Rebirth, like Flash Rebirth? No, this is known as the Rebirth era of DC. So this immediately takes place after the New 52 era. So Flashpoint created the DC universe, the DC New 52 universe, starting over. Not a lot of characters have a fresh reboot, but some do. And Rebirth kind of brought back a sense of legacy when they kicked off that particular line. So Batman, again, hardly anything happened to his origin or his past. The stories that happened, like Nightfall or Contagion or No Man's Land, all still happened to Batman. So he was a character that really, not a lot of things were changed. So this kicks off with the Rebirth one-shot, which was co-written by Scott Snyder, and of course Scott Snyder is the one that helmed the New 52 era of Batman. And then we have a newcomer, Tom King, who has written things like Vision and Mr. Miracle, Omega Men, just to name a few of the titles that he had worked on before working on Batman. So what he does is reintroduce a lot of characters, introduce new characters, and brings back Batman to the basics. So this particular hardcover split up into a couple of things. So it kicks off with this storyline called I Am Gotham. It's the introduction of these two new characters named Gotham and Gotham Girl. And yes, this is the same kind of thing that you saw in the first Spider-Man movie, the new MCU movie. What was that? Homecoming. But Batman's trying to rescue a plane, and then all of a sudden these two characters that he thought were Superman, Gotham and Gotham Girl, help him out. So who are these characters? Well, there's a whole mystery behind them and what ends up happening to them. So that's how this particular hardcover starts off. And then we get the crossover with the Night of the Monster Men. So this crosses over with Detective Comics, and it crosses over with Nightwing. Now those issues are not found through here. This is just the Batman parts. And then we get the I Am Suicide story arc. Now, I'll be honest with you, when I first started reading this particular run of Batman, I wasn't a fan. And I was so weirded out by the fact that everybody else was loving it. Everybody was loving Gotham, I Am Gotham. And I thought, okay, well, maybe it's just me. And I really did think that. And it's really weird to look at it now and going back and seeing all the people now hate on Tom King because of some of the things that he did in the pages of Heroes in Crisis, and his particular story that he was building here. I'm not going to go into details as to what happens, but it is interesting that at one time I thought everybody was loving Tom King's run on Batman except me. But of course, the artwork is what really pushed me to keep reading. I love David Finch. I was a big fan of his during his Top Cow days. And then, of course, Mikel Janin, who is just a phenomenal artist. And there's a couple of other fill-in artists in here, like Joel Jones, that help out throughout this particular run. So this one here has 400 pages. And the one thing I want to note is that it does have this thick, glossy paper. And here is Volume 2. Again, $34.99. This one has 448 pages. Let's look at it. Under the dust jacket, you have this awesome image by David Finch. And it's David Finch and Mikel Janin again, being the two people that are really behind all of this. This collects issues 16 through 32, as well as annual number 1. And this kicks off with the storyline that I thought, okay, damn, now I'm starting to see what everybody else sees in Tom King's writing. This is really good. And that is I Am Bane. And I'm not going to lie, that's why I enjoyed it. I was a big fan of Nightfall. I know a lot of people hated it. A lot of people are divided. Some people love it. But I was a big fan of Nightfall. I like the idea of some unknown bad guy just coming up and breaking Batman's back without having, any history with him outside of the few issues that were built right before the event. But this is just the story of Bane coming back to Gotham and just wanting pure vengeance. Uncanny Omar Talk Pretty One Day. Vengeance on Bruce Wayne, Batman. Because remember, Bane is one of the few characters that actually knows Bruce Wayne is Batman. And he's not just out to get Batman, he's out to get all his supporting cast, anybody that Batman loves, and also some of his enemies. So that's what this particular story is, and it's such a good story. And then we have a crossover with The Flash. This is called The Button, which is kind of like a pre-Doomsday Clock, but after Watchmen's storyline. And it's very similar to the crossover with Night of the Monster Man. You only get the Batman issues. If you want to get the Flash issues, you have to go and buy Flash. This one, I think, is drawn by Jason Fabuk. You have this awesome story in here that's drawn by Mitch Gerards that features a team-up between Batman and Swamp Thing. Oh, and one thing I want to stress is that some of these books are out of print as of this video, but much like Volume 1 and 2, they've had new printings of those. So I have a feeling maybe they will reprint Volumes 3, 4, and 5. I think those are the ones that are out of print. Volume 4 just went out of print recently in the near future. At least I have hope that's the way that DC continues to do business as far as collected editions, because they do a lot of stealth reprints throughout the year. They don't make a big announcement about it, and sometimes it's hit and miss as to what they reprint. And then we return with the War of Jokes and Riddles. This is another big event that he was writing, and this pits Batman up against two of his biggest arch nemesis, and of course that's the Riddler and the Joker. It's a story that takes place in the past, but then we have some things that are happening now. This, I think, if you read it, if I remember correctly, it takes place right around the time that Zero Year was taking place from Scott Snyder's New 52 run. Here we have some more David Finch artwork. And I do want to show this, though. This is the Paul Dini / Neil Adams story right here. It's a Christmas story, and just a few other of the backup stories. And speaking of backups, in the very back are where the variant covers are collected. Again, this one is glossy paper, thick glossy paper, much like the very first volume. Again, collecting issues 16 through 32 and annual number 1. That's a piece by Neil Adams right there. Tim Sell doing a lot of the variant covers. Olivier Coipel, love his art. And that's Dave Stewart on colors right there. Next up is Volume 3 of the Deluxe Edition, $34.99. It's a Mikel Janin cover there, and let's look at it. Under the dust jacket, you have this beautiful image right here. Now, this one's a little bit thinner. This one only collects issues 33 through 43 and annual number 2 of Batman by Tom King. And this one has 348 pages. That is an awesome, awesome image right there. This one is a lot of fun. because I like the big fight between Catwoman and Talia al Ghul here. There's a big sword fight. This is supplied by Joelle Jones, the artwork here. Batman looking very much like his Zack Snyder Justice League movie counterpart right there. There's a lot of action in this, and this is what I'm mainly talking about, this big fight between these two awesome characters. Still, I think I'm Team Talia. I'm a big fan of Talia, so she's awesome. Now it's Joelle Jones and Mikel Janin, and then Clay Mann also has an issue in here. Lee Weeks. And it's interesting because with Lee Weeks, they actually did a Tom King / Lee Weeks deluxe edition, just collecting the Lee Weeks issues that he drew. I remember a lot of people were pissed about that because why waste time with a collection like that of just issues that Lee Weeks drew instead of giving us a Batman Deluxe Edition Volume 6? Well, Deluxe Edition Volume 6 is finally coming. It's coming out in July. Here's some Clay Mann artwork, who also draws some beautiful people like Mikel Janin. It's like Tom King knows how to choose his artists, I swear. This is a really cute story. There's a double date with Superman in this particular volume right here. Superman and Lois, Catwoman and Batman going out on a date. There's also Super Friends with Wonder Woman showing up in here. This is another awesome storyline. So for me, I think like Tom King's run was very much hit and miss, like a roller coaster. But I mean, I feel the same way about Grant Morrison's run on New X-Men. They did an amazing job bringing me back to comics. I mean, that is the run that brought me back to comics. But also, there were a lot of downs. Just like this. This is a kick-ass Poison Ivy story right here, which shows how deadly she can be. But let's look at some of these variants all the way in the back. Some awesome kick-ass variants there by Coppel and Dave Stewart. Really miss that guy on monthly titles. And Joelle Jones variant right here with Jordi Belair on colors. And if you want to see what all the spines look like together on your shelf, here we go. Now, as you can see, there is a difference between volumes 3 and 4. Moving forward, it stops being the Rebirth era. I mean, it's still the Rebirth era to everybody, but DC stopped labeling it the Rebirth era and now just called it Batman the Deluxe Edition. Which, it gets confusing, right? Because we've had several Deluxe Editions. So let's keep going with this because that's not the only thing that has changed. Not just the dust jacket. So for this volume, we have this beautiful Jim Lee cover. I mean, how could you not use Jim Lee as your cover? And then the back cover also drawn by Jim Lee, who was supplying the variant covers for the book at the time. Under the dust jacket, right here with this image, is that a spoiler? Is that a dream sequence? Is that really what's happening? Well, one way to find out is by reading the book. Now, remember when I said the spine is not the only thing that has changed in these particular books? Well, this is when they started using this thin matte paper. So a lot of people were upset. The retail price is still $34.99. Book collects issues 45 through 57 of Batman and DC Nation number 0. I did want to point that out before I moved any further. But yes, there were a lot of people that were upset with the changes to the paper quality. You get used to a certain level of quality when it comes to these books, and then they change the way that they're printed. Now, to a lot of people, it doesn't matter. The books are still coming out, so that's great. But to some people that love artwork and appreciate oversized artwork, it's just different. It dims the colors, the blacks, and really feels rough compared to that glossy paper. It just doesn't feel like a deluxe edition, even though they've been using, you know, this type of paper for other collections. And this seems to be, I don't know, case by case. Sometimes they use this type of paper, sometimes they use glossy paper. So I'm not really sure what determines what gets what paper for DC. Alright, but let's talk about the artwork in here, because we still have some amazing talent. We have Tony S. Danielle now coming back and drawing a lot of this particular book right here. Mikel Janin still kicking ass on this particular title. And a lot of this is just building on the relationship between Bruce and Selina. So it's Catwoman and Batman. Will they? Won't they? Why haven't they? Haven't they already done this? And who comes crashing the party is, of course, the Joker. So there's a lot of wonderful moments in here, and then there's a lot of moments that pissed a lot of people off. You can find out exactly what happens through these pages. Here's some more of Lee Weeks' artwork that you can find in this particular format. And I want to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the Lee Weeks Deluxe Edition actually has the paper quality that the Rebirth Deluxe Editions did, that glossy paper. So here we have Tony Danielle, and we have Dick Grayson with Batman back together again. Before Rick Grayson, still haven't gotten over that. And then we have the DC Nation story back here. All the extras are still in the back here, including this amazing variant by Frank Cho. Here's the Jim Lee variant that I was talking about. Arthur Adams right there. Carrie Andrews. Carrie Andrews really has such a range in his art style. The guy can draw just about any style. It's Matini, I think. Francesco Mattina. Also another kick-ass artist. Then we have some sketches back here by Lee Weeks. And then there's designs in there by Joelle Jones. But I can't show those because those are spoilerish. Last but certainly not least, until we get Volume 6, is Batman Deluxe Edition Volume 5. So $34.99. This collects Batman 58 through 63, 66 through 69, annual number 3. Wait, I forgot. I gotta remove it from here. So you can see this image. There we go, that's better. Annual number 3, and then Batman Secret Files number 1. This is probably the slimmest book, even though it looks thick, but that's again because of the paper quality that they're using. And that is this matte paper, so it's back to that. This one has 288 pages. So this is what made Deluxe Edition collectors frustrated, because they end this on a cliffhanger. They ended on a big spoilery type of cliffhanger that doesn't get finished until the next arc. And we didn't have any way of knowing if it was ever coming out. This book was released in July of 2020, so it's been well over a year. And then finally, a couple of months ago, Deluxe Edition Volume 6 was in the catalog. Knock on wood, doesn't get canceled, actually comes out. And I have a feeling that it will. I mean, there's no way that it doesn't. So when I was talking about a little bit earlier in the video, when I said, okay, how many Omnis would this take? Well, we still have one more Deluxe Edition that wraps up Tom King's run, and then we have his Bat and Cat series. And what's missing from this particular book is the price crossover. So I don't know why they didn't include Batman 64 and 65, because they didn't include the Night of the Monster Men in there, or the Button, but they still included the Batman issues of those particular crossovers. So the price was a crossover with the Flash again. It is written by Joshua Williamson, so that might be the reason why they didn't collect it. But the only place you can find it, along with the Flash, is Heroes in Crisis, The Price, and Other Stories. And that's a hardcover or a trade paperback. That's the only way to find Batman. But I would love for them to collect that, as well as the Button, as well as Night of the Monster Man, complete in an omnibus format. So that would probably take 3 Omnis, honestly, to wrap up that run. Because Deluxe Edition Volume 6 takes us all the way to issue 85, and then annual number 4, as well as Secret Files number 2. So I'm thinking 2 to 3 Omnis, depending on how they map it. If they make them thick, 2 with everything, including Bat and Cat and all the crossovers I talked about. This is a kick-ass story right here with Pig. Oh, this one's awesome. This is drawn by Mitch Gerards, and it's just a creepy-ass story. Then we have, of course, more Batman and drama with Catwoman. And I can't show the last story arc in here, but you can find out for yourself why people were upset that it ended the way that it did. But luckily, like I said, we're going to get another volume, a volume 6. Now, all of these have glued binding, but as you could tell, the books lay over really nice, whether you're looking at, this is volume 5, or one of the earlier volumes with volume 1 with the glossy paper. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing some of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsors. If you live in Europe and are interested in pre-ordering or purchasing Omnis, then you should definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC big books within the EU. Flat shipping of €9.90 for EU countries. Extremely careful and sturdy packaging. Emails are answered within 24 hours. And they have a superb selection of new releases and out-of-print books on their website. Just head over to waltscomicshop.com for more great deals and rare titles. And for a limited time, you can use the code nearmintcon, all one word, at the checkout for free shipping to all EU countries with your first order. Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for Omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of these particular editions. Let me know in the comments down below if this is the way you've been picking up Batman by Tom King, or if you've been getting the trade paperback, if you're super excited for Volume 6, or if you're hoping one day we'll get an omnibus. I'm sure that's inevitable. I mean, it's Tom King, it's DC, it's Batman. We are sure to get an omnibus one day. Now, honestly, it would take 2 to do his entire run, maybe even 3, depending on how they map it. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. If you have any questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. We are on Spreadshop and on Patreon. Amazing ways to support the channel if you could do so. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy and stay safe out there. Much love.